All right, so we are here with Dr. Travis Scott. And Travis, where is it that you teach?
Right now, Xavier University of Louisiana in New
Okay.
Orleans.
All right, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Barbara's second euphonium sonata and possibly the concerto. So, Travis, can you just talk about how did you know Barbara York?
Yeah, she started. She kind of hit the euphonium scene with her first sonata, and that was pretty popular, and it was making the rounds. Um, I think I'm not exactly sure. Maybe I read about her in one of the journals or something, or just kind of heard her name, and I don't know if I was on TubeNet at the time or something like that. But I got the first euphonium sonata, and I just was really taken with the writing. It was, as I think I've told, well, I did tell her, you just kind of knew what to do when some pieces of music, you play it and you just know what to do, right? It just leads you
Yeah.
somewhere. And not all euphonium music does that. There's a lot of it, there's a lot of new music. We're hungry for new music, but not all of it is, um, I don't think intuitive is the word, but just kind of connecting. Not all of it connects right away. And so
Yeah.
I was really taken by that. I've always loved melodies, pretty melodies, and you know, she you can't beat Barbara's melodies.
You can't.
Things might be as beautiful, but they're not more beautiful than. You know,
Yeah.
so I maybe I'm maybe I'm trying to think. I probably messaged her, reached out to her on Facebook, and started chatting with her there. So that's kind of how I became familiar with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people met her through Facebook, and that was one of the nice things about her was she wanted to talk to people that were playing her music, and she wanted to give you this plethora of information so you could play it well.
Yeah.
All right, so you wound up commissioning the second euphonium sonata.
Yes.
So can you talk about how that commission came about and the process that you went through?
Yeah. So um, I had a friend who was, had a mobile disability. The term is arthrogryposis multiplex congenita type 151. And he passed away. We were friends in undergrad, and we're both music education majors at the University of Akron in the early 2000s. And we came in at the same time, and we're kind of befriended each other. We lived in the dorms together for a little bit of time, and he after he finished at Akron, I went to Texas, and he went to St. Louis, and was pursuing becoming a priest. He was in a seminary school in St. Louis. I can't remember the exact name, but somewhere along the line, towards the end of our time at Akron, they actually developed a van for him to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And the ailment that he had was a muscle defect, and it really constricts the muscle around every joint in the body. So your limbs are kind of twisted up. You don't have a lot of mobility. So it had like kind of a little. You could turn the wheel this way and a foot pedal, I think, for gas, or maybe the other was for gas. But they, anyways, came up with this system where he could drive, and he had a white minivan. And we called it White Lightning, or he called it White Lightning, which is the title of one of the movements in the sonata, actually. So, like I said, I'm in Texas and he's in St. Louis. And you know how friends do, you kind of just, if you move away, you just kind of drift apart. But there's certain friends that you can just pick up right where you left off. And he was one. And I remember one of the times I was driving back and forth from Texas to Ohio, I stopped and visited him there. And right before the end, I think he died in October of 2011. It was just, I don't know why, but we kind of got back into communicating a little bit. I'm talking weeks, weeks before he passed away. And so I don't know, it was kind of nice. I got to tell him a few things that were important for me to tell him, and say a few things. And but anyways, he actually ended up in an automobile accident and died from complications from that accident.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, there was just something I remember. He was just a really close friend, a good person, and that really stung. And I knew immediately that I wanted to do something for him, kind of to memorialize him. And that would be through a commission. And I thought for a while, it didn't take me long, but I thought, who do I know who could write something that would accomplish that, kind of put him in our memory in permanence, through a piece of repertoire, but also could help me process that, and help his family process it, and help his friends process it. He was really liked by everybody. He was hilarious. He had a significant disability, but it never held him back. He never took no for an answer. I mean, and they built a ramp so he could drive up on the podium to conduct during when we took conducting. The marching band director designed drills so that he could actually be in the designs on the field and everything, and play, and had a little motorized wheelchair. But let's see.
What did you say his name was, Travis?
Ryan Matthews.
Okay, Ryan.
Ryan okay. Matthews, yeah. And so anyways, I reached out to Barbara. It looks like I reached out to her in October of 2011. So again, like I said, it did not take very long. I can't remember the day that he died right off the top of my head, but I think it was the 21st, and it looks like I reached out to her on the 23rd of October, just looking at these emails. So
yeah,
didn't take me long. And so that's kind of got the conversation started. And yeah, from there, I formed a consortium to kind of help pay for the sonata. And I'll send you those names as well, so you have them. But it was basically friends and family members and former teachers involved in
that. Okay. All right. So I already know this story, but there's an optional bass clarinet part. Can you, for anyone that's just watching this and hasn't, they're not going to watch the entire 5-6 hour interview that we did last summer, please talk about how that optional bass clarinet part came about.
Yeah, so one of the parties that was involved with the commissioning was his parents, his stepdad and his mom. And his stepfather is a bass clarinet player. He plays in community bands and that sort of thing. And so I think I might have to double check the details on this, but I think it was his idea, and he asked if there was a way that there could be an optional bass clarinet part so he could play in the premiere and kind of be a part of that as well.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, the version with bass clarinet, the accompaniment is different. Are they interchangeable, or was there a distinct difference?
I'll have to look at it again. There's not a huge difference. I think what Barbara did is she put the bass clarinet part in the piano.
Okay.
And I think it says in the score, I think it says option, play if the bass clarinet is not there.
Okay.
So
all right.
There may have been a time when there were two versions, completely different versions, but I think that in the end, she just kind of put cue notes in the piano part.
Okay. Yeah. And his stepfather played on the premiere, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And do you remember?
Richard Thomason is his name.
Richard Thomason. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember when and where the premiere was?
The premiere was in, I think it was early July of 2013.
Okay.
It would have been July because it was right after. I always play in this summer band for the 4th of July when we're not in a pandemic. They just canceled this year's again too. So,
Uh-oh.
but I was playing a band in Cleveland for the 4th of July, and this recital, I remember it was right after it. And I had a choice of doing the recital right before it or right after it. And I thought, well, this is a really good band. I get in good shape for it. So I'm going to put the recital after it. So I'm in,
Smart idea.
in good shape.
So you kind of already answered this, but you, as well as I, know that Brian Dowdy used to refer to Barbara as the death composer. And when Barbara was talking about that, she talks about how, some people were healed just from the commissioning process and getting to play the pieces that were written, out of in memory or honor of these people. So did Barbara's piece help you heal in a way? How did that go about it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I was processing those emotions in real time, listening to the MIDI recordings that she sent me. I remember the second movement in particular, the Psalm of Peace. I'm have goosebumps right now, but I just remember listening to it in my apartment in Louisville, Texas, and crying, sobbing, ugly crying, snot coming down the nose crying, and
the Kim Kardashian crying.
Yes. I mean, it was just, it's based off of beautiful scripture.
Is that scripture in the program notes on the piece?
Yeah, I think it's Psalm 121 and Psalm 88. It's the I lift my eyes, or what is it? I lift my eyes to the mountain, and where does my help come from? It comes from the Lord. And the other one is, though I walk through the valley at the shadow of death. I'm going to fix my scripture quotations. I don't, but I think it's 121 and 88.
Gotcha.
If I remember correctly, but it was perfect. It was perfect.
Good deal.
It was, okay. No, let me think about this now. Yeah, it's the second movement.
Okay. So just for anyone that might be wanting to play this piece or might be listening to it, seeking more information, is there anything else that they should know? Just anything at all?
I mean, the program notes are pretty specific.
Okay.
The first movement, I don't know if this is, are you talking about technical demands on playing it, or just about
you can talk about that if you want. That will be in my, but
no, I mean,
anything that might not be public knowledge that is perfectly appropriate to share.
I think this is in the well, I know it's in the interview, and will probably be in our upcoming article as well. But the Plato's Cave is a reference to Ryan's curiosity with philosophy. He was really interested in that. That's part of what drove, I shouldn't say what drove him into the church, but what led him into the church.
Did you know that before the interview?
What's that?
About the Plato's Cave?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I had forgotten it until you just said, and now it's coming back to me. I'm like, okay, I remember that now.
Well, and that was all Barbara. And actually, that's good. Thank you. But she didn't know. She just picked this Plato. What is it called? Dialogue, maybe. She picked this writing of Plato because she also was interested in philosophy, and this particular story about people being chained and they can't move their head and they're looking at a wall. They're just facing the wall, and behind them is a fire, and there's little characters walking by, and all they see is the shadow on the wall, right? And so they think that's their reality, but in reality, they think that shadow moving on the wall is real, some sort of creature moving, crawling across. But in reality, it's the people behind them walking. And one person breaks free and tries to tell the others that, no, that's just a shadow of the people behind you, and they don't believe him. And but that was Barbara's. She chose that topic. I didn't go to her saying, Ryan liked philosophy. He was really into Plato. No, she just picked it. She didn't know any of that at the time. It was only later after she wrote it that I said, Ryan was really into philosophy. He studied this stuff. He read this stuff quite a bit. And she said, oh, I just had a feeling, you know, but that was interesting.
There are multiple instances I have found. The other one that pops in my mind is the one with Angelo Manzo.
Okay. No, no,
the De Profundis. I can't remember what scripture that she kind of based it off of, but he kept that like taped to his desk or somewhere around there. And he was like, "How did you know that?" And she's like, "I didn't."
Okay.
So maybe Barbara was just the pastor that we all needed in our lives.
She's certainly a spiritual channel,
Yes. Yes. So I have one more big question, but before I hit record, we were talking a little bit about the concerto, which Dr. Gail Robertson premiered. And you informed me that you were the one that led the commission.
Yeah. I had when I was studying at Michigan State, I had a student, and she was an adult student, very active in many community bands, plays drum set as well, and plays euphonium. Her name is Eva Jean Wellman, and she she was a very kind student, worked real hard, but she wanted to do something really nice for me. She knew kind of our time was coming to a close as I don't know, I was moving off. I was finishing my time at Michigan State, and she kind of maybe knew that maybe it was just a graduation present, or maybe, hey, he's probably going to be moving on soon. So she wanted to do something really nice, and she actually contacted Barbara about writing a concerto. That would be for me, and so she put down an amount of money. I don't know if it's good to talk about that sort of thing, but it was a nice, fair price. It was a nice price, but for a concerto, I thought, no, we need to pay Barbara a lot more, And so I thought, well, this is great that you're doing that, but I think it's important that we should try to get the price up a little bit more. And so I reached out to some friends and said, hey, this is in the works. Would you like to be on the consortium? And so I kind of helped get a little closer to what Barbara was worth. I don't know if she ever
got what she never charged what she was worth.
No, but we got it a little closer at least. So yeah. those were some. That's kind of how that happened. And then I think I premiered the piano version, and Gail premiered the orchestral version. And I think you should. And Amy Shoemaker Bliss recorded it.
Okay.
On her CD, so that's like the premiere recording of it. And I think Gail is recording it with band.
Okay.
That was in the works, I think, before COVID, so it's probably been postponed. Okay. But I think she's planning on recording that with the Julie Giroux's Euphonium Concerto.
Okay, nice. I didn't know that she was doing a Euphonium Concerto.
Yep, it's in the works.
I love Julie Giroux.
Yeah,
genuinely. Okay, so if someone, say a young student or an old student, whatever, were to want to approach a composer and start a commission, what kind of advice do you have for someone wanting to go through that process? And this doesn't necessarily have to be about Barbara, but how do you initiate that spark and just, a quick process?
Well, first thing is contact. You have to make contact, and I found, I love commissioning. I love playing new pieces, and mostly it's because I'm envious of composers. I wish I was a composer, so I'm not a composer.
Yes,
I'm not a composer. But I'm really envious of that. I really admire that in people who have that creative spark and intuition. Um, so find someone that you like is important. Find someone, listen to people and find composers that you like and that you really connect with. And then write to them and tell them that you have this connection with their music and let them know that it's finding I don't know, it's finding a response with you. That's a good start. That's a good
Okay.
start. Let them know that you're interested in more music.
There you go.
You have to be also very um, aware that in many cases, this is how they earn a living, right? And so, although some composers are willing to write pieces for you for free, that should not be a assumption when you contact a composer. Your assumption should be that there's going to be a commission price that you're going to agree on.
Yes.
And work from there. And if you so happen to find a composer who is independently wealthy and it's not the biggest worry that they are being paid for their creation, then good for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fun process. It's a fun process.
Good deal. Okay, so in the interviews, we talk about this, but I'm going to ask again because I'm asking everyone. What do you think Barbara York's legacy is?
Well, she gave us a mountain of quality repertoire. That's ours and ours alone. I'm not sure we have a composer who's done that. We have composers who have written great pieces for us, but I don't think we have a mountain of repertoire like Barbara left for us. Alec Wilder is I've heard, and I've even made the connection myself. But they're very different composers, and for me, it was just nice to get new music that you could sing with. When you played, it was nice to have a new song, a new tune, and I think tuba and euphonium is rooted in vocal traditions. Our repertoire, is oftentimes we play song transcriptions. Some of our etude books are vocal. What's the word I'm looking for? Etudes. So she gave us permission to sing again on our instruments. It's kind of the way I like to put it.
Yeah. I've resorted to saying that Barbie York is her own genre.
Yeah.
When you're recital planning, you got to have a Barbie York piece.
Yes. Start with a Baroque sonata and then have a Barbie York piece somewhere.